Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Mighty Mujeres webinar. My name is Nicole Castillo, and I'm the Communications Intern at Latinas Represent. If you are joining us from the web, to the left, you'll see a chat box. Feel free to post where you are from in your Twitter handle bar there. We'll be tweeting using the hashtag VRLNation. If you're joining us from the phone, welcome. And also, you can post any questions that you might have in the chat box. Have an opportunity to be able to ask our questions throughout the remainder of the presentation. It is the last in our four-part series that is a collaboration between Latinas Represent and Vote Run Lead. If you missed the first three, they have been recorded and are available on the web. So let's get started. Latinas Represent is a joint initiative with Political Parity and the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda. We're seeking to call out the lack of Latina leaders and to change the political landscape to be more reflective of all Americans. Of the 25 million Latinas that are living in the United States, only 109 are holding seats that are available in national office. So there are 8,236 seats, and only 109 of those are held by Latinas. We are yet to have a Latina U.S. Senator, and only one Latina has served as a governor. Today, I have the opportunity to have a conversation with four leading Latinas nationally. We're going to just have them each introduce themselves. I'll begin by saying your name. You can just tell us where you're from and what you've been doing either in your position as a political appointee or elected office, or in your position as a leader. So first will be Representative Charlene Fernandez from Arizona.
Hi, thank you for including me on this, very important topic. I'm from Arizona. I represent Legislative District 4, which is actually one of the largest legislative districts here in Arizona. We cover four counties, Yuma County, the one I live in and I've lived in all my life, Pima County, which is one of the largest counties in Arizona, and then Maricopa County, a portion of Maricopa County, which is the largest county in Arizona, and then a small portion of Pinal County. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've just been working toward this day forever. I've been in the legislature. This is my first term. I ran before, I lost. So just to give you an idea, my story is never give up. With that, I'll let the other panelists introduce themselves.
Welcome, Representative Fernandez.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Damari Bonilla Rodriguez.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Bonilla Rodriguez. I was born and raised in New York City and have worked in the political arena from a young age as a volunteer on campaigns and several local and state offices, and I wrote my dissertation about Latina leadership in the United States and have done great work nationally with amazing leaders, and especially the Latina State Legislative Caucus, which is part of the Board of Hispanic Caucus Chairs. So I'm glad to be part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Dr. Bonilla Rodriguez. The next is Representative Cici Velasquez from Arizona. Cici, are you there? Okay, well, she may be joining us at another portion of the webinar, but we'll go ahead and move to Representative Clarice Navarro from Colorado.
Hi, I'm State Representative Clarice Navarro. I was first elected in 2011 and have served my first term and was just reelected and started my second term this year. My first race, I won with a 4% gain. My second race, I won with 60% of the vote. So I think as being one of the only Hispanic Republicans in the House and a woman speaks volumes as to what we are doing here in Colorado and how we're trying to get Latino women involved and elected. And in my case, especially Latina Republicans elected to serve in the House and the Senate. I represent Southern Colorado. I have 3 counties and represent about 75,000 people in my area. So thank you for having me, and this is a great opportunity, and I really enjoy this group.
Thank you, Representative Navarro, and also you represent my hometown, Pueblo. So.
Oh, all right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll start with the questions. Not everyone has been working in political office, so we're just going to open up this question for you to talk about what got you started seeking political office, or about any major leadership opportunity that you've held. And we'll begin with Representative Fernandez.
I feel like I was born into this. That's a question I get all the time, is how did you get involved? And I think for a lot of Latino, Latinas, we have a tendency to not value the work that we do, maybe the work that we do at home, organizing our own children and their friends, and the work that we do in the schools for our children. But at an early age, I just became very interested in California politics. I'm here in Arizona, but Yuma's right on the state line of California. So we always received, for whatever reason in our home, we always received the LA Times. We knew no one in LA, but it was during a very turbulent time. I'm 60 years old, so you go back a few years and you know what was going on in LA. So my dad and I would always discuss what was happening. And I think that really spurred my interest for social justice. I was always involved with student government in school. After I graduated from high school and had my family, I started working with the local Democratic Party. I worked my way up to party chair, serving as vice chair, secretary, treasurer, precinct committeeman, state committeeman. I eventually became vice chair of the Arizona Democratic Party. I was hired by Congressman Ed Pastor. He was the first elected Hispanic for the state of Arizona. We were very proud of him, and I worked in his office for over 12 years. I worked for Governor Napolitano and Congressman Raul Grijalva. So it's just, it kind of runs in the blood. But I think I could boil it down to one sentence: is never say no. When someone offers you a position or to do some volunteer work, whether they're paid or unpaid, never say no. Never think that you can't do it, because you can. I think the only prerequisite, for me, was to have a supportive husband and a supportive family. Because when you have that, you can do anything. And when Congressman Pastor called me up and said, "Will you run my Yuma office?" I didn't even know what a congressional office did, but I said yes, because I knew no matter what, I would have the support. And that's what got me to where I am today.
That's all really great information, and there's so much that you're saying that it's making me think too, if there are any quotes that anyone wants to pick out, and you post those on Twitter using the hashtag #VRLNation. I mean, what you're saying to me, I think resonates with a lot of us, which is growing up in families where we were expected to have a lot of responsibility and having a really firm commitment to social justice.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bonilla Rodriguez?
I definitely took some notes as well, and I think your journey resonates with mine. I was born and raised in the projects in Spanish Harlem, New York, and raised by my grandparents. I lost my mom at a young age, and so according to statistics, I was not headed in a good direction based on the box that I was born into. But I think political involvement from a young age, community involvement from a young age, allowed me to see the need in my community, in my church, and even in my family for women and Latinas to hold visible leadership positions. And I agree that we are the organizers and we do so much day to day in our own homes, in our communities, but it's not always visible to the external world and to national audiences. And so I decided that across all sectors, across the country, that we really needed to see more Latinas in leadership positions, such as the women on this call today. And I always use my energy, my time, and my focus on advocating for our community from the grassroots level. But then through higher education, realized that my greatest contribution would be through research. And so I decided to interview Latina leaders across the country and was able to conduct a national study of over 300 Latinas sharing their leadership experiences and have been able to travel the country talking about Latina leadership and especially the importance of Latina political leaders. And we definitely need more like the women that are on the call today.
Yes, thank you. I think you highlight again what Representative Fernandez was talking about, which is that Latinas have so many informal leadership roles that they're already doing, and it's really about bringing and making what they're doing visible. And I think research is a wonderful way of being able to find the Latinas nationally that are already doing this really incredible work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Velasquez, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. So everyone else has had an opportunity to briefly introduce themselves, so why don't you go ahead and do that, and then we're just starting by asking the question of what got us started in political leadership.
Okay. Well, my name is Representative Ceci Velasquez. I am also from Arizona, like Representative Fernandez. My district is Legislative District 29, and that encompasses West Phoenix, South Glendale, and a little bit of Litchfield Park. And just to kind of give you an overview of that, is my community is very low income as far as a special community called Maryville. It's the heart of my district. So as far as myself personally, I'm a mother of 5 children. My oldest is 23 and my youngest is 13. I started working on campaigns a couple of years ago for my current senator, Martin Quesada. And let me see, let's segue into the next part is what got me involved is he actually, our senator, got me involved. I started working for him as his paralegal at his law office and realized he started running, he ran for the House of Representatives. We lost the first time, and then he was appointed. And so I've just he's basically mentored me over the last few years and introduced me, to the political spectrum in Arizona and in Phoenix. And, he says you really, you told me you really have a knack for this. My previous job was I worked for Division of Child Support Enforcement, and so every day I met with clients that a lot of times I would say 80% of my clients were of the lower income, relying on someone else to pay the bills. And instead of just being this officer of helping people get their child support, I tried to mentor them, even though that was kind of above my position. But basically tell people, you need to reach for the stars. You need to take care of your kids. Don't rely on anyone else. We did get some custodial fathers, but I treat everyone the same. I think equality is a huge thing as far as myself. But Latinas in Arizona, there's a lot of strong Latinas in Arizona, and I would love to see and mentor and get people more involved in Arizona. And I know that's the mission. I'm sorry, I'm on a bus right now. Sorry. But it's a mission of ours as far as our Democratic caucus. As Charlene can chime in on that as well, as we stand very strong together. So I feel like unity is a big deal as well.
Yeah. No, and I think also what you're speaking to is just the fact that so many Latinas have all this experience, either like working at the grassroots, working on the front lines, so to speak. So we really know what the issues are, and I think it's those experiences that make us so important contributors to national politics. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes.
Representative Navarro?
Hi. Well, to be quite honest, I grew up in a single-family home. My mom raised my sister and I, and politics was never an issue. It was never brought up or even talked about. When I met my husband, he got me involved in volunteering on different campaigns, just getting really involved in the party and learning how different things worked. I was appointed to serve on city council and just absolutely loved that and decided that I would pursue a career and move up to the next level. After redistricting here in Colorado, there was an open seat and I was asked to run for that. Of course, I was told that you will never win. I ran against a average white gentleman who had just retired and, was ready to go. And they said, this is a Democrat area. You will never win in this area. And I think it was that motivation to tell me that I couldn't do something that motivated me even more to get out there and actually win. And, I serve very boldly and very proudly, and I'm a wife and a mom, and I serve with a heart. And, I have a tough district, but I absolutely vote my district. And sometimes I'm often the only one voting, with the other party, and I'm okay with that. So that's how I got involved.
Thank you. These are all very wonderful answers, and I think you all started to begin to touch on the topic of work-life balance. So before we enter a conversation about that, I want to encourage all of us that are listening to you, whether you're on the web or you're on the telephone or you're on Twitter, to go ahead and begin to submit questions for the presenters. If you're on the phone, what you can do is you can either do an @VoteRunLead on Twitter, you can respond to the email that you received to sign on, or you can go ahead and message us on the chat box. So we'll start with Representative Fernandez. If you can talk to us just about what your experience has been like with work-life balance, and maybe talk about what it was before you were in elected office, and then maybe how that has changed now that you're in office.
Well, I didn't run for office. I served on a school board for 8 years prior to this position, and I waited until my kids they asked me, they said, please don't be on the school board while we're in the same school. So I granted them that wish, although I was at their school all the time. But as soon as the last one graduated from high school, I won a seat on the school board and served there for 8 years. I think it is a balance, and you do have to, again, what I said, you have to have some people that are supportive around you. I have 2 wonderful sisters that think I'm crazy, but they support me 100%. When a lot of people don't understand, serving in the legislature for someone like me, I live in Yuma. The state house is in Phoenix. That's 3 hours away. That means that I leave my home on Monday morning. I drive directly from my home in the morning and go right to work. 3 hours later, I'm pulling into the parking lot, and I stay there the whole week until, actually Thursday. I stay with my daughter. I'm lucky enough to have a daughter that went to college up there and remained in Phoenix area. And then on Thursday morning, I gas up my car, pack it up, go to work, and at the end of the day, I drive home. If I had small children at home, it would be very, very difficult, but not impossible. So you have to weigh those. And I think, again, as Latinas, the work that we do a lot of times isn't valued. The way we can multitask is not valued, and we don't even recognize it in ourselves in what the work that we can do. The first thing when people tell me they're interested in running for office, I can hear the passion in the voices of the people on this panel. And you can hear it when people tell you, I'm thinking of running, or I'm thinking of running. I want to do this. And that passion has to surpass any kind of fear you might have of not being able to do it. And if that passion is there, nothing is impossible. And so I think my passion is quite great. I'm going to tell you what, I have little sound bites. My one sound bite was, I had promised myself, just to myself, that I was going to be in the state house. I was going to be sworn in before I turned 60 years old. After that, I was just going to settle for whatever would happen. Well, I was sworn in January, and February 20th, I turned 60 years old. So that was my goal, and I met my goal, and others have a hard time getting me out of there because I love it, and I'm there for the long haul.
Getting a little bit of background noise, so if the panelists can put their phone on mute when they're not talking, that might reduce a little bit of the noise. We also had a question that came in that was kind of based on a lot of the things that you were mentioning, Representative Fernandez, which is that one of the people is asking, she wants to run, but she doesn't feel like her family is really supportive, and she's wondering, how do you get your family on board?
Again, my 2 sisters, they tell me, we're politically active. We've never missed a vote. They always, they're there election time, but they would never walk door to door or register people. I mean, they just cannot even believe it when I go knock on a stranger's door. And that's what we do every day, right? But there was that deep commitment that from them, if that was something that I love, that they were going to love it too. I mean, I've seen them at political events solely for me. They have no idea what's going on. They don't care to know what's going on, but they're there for me. And I think even if you think your family's not supportive, you need to sit down with them, tell them why you're running, because it has to be for a really good reason. It has to be not for your kids, but everyone's kids. It has to be not just for your elderly parents, but everybody's elderly parents. And if you can sell them, then you know you've got it made. And they're probably supportive, but you're just not keying into it. So you have to sit down and talk to them.
That's great advice. I'm going to go ahead and mix up the panel a little bit and go with Representative Navarro. What do you think about, your experience with work-life balance? You talked about being a mother. Share with us what your experiences have been.
So I represent the Pueblo area, which is 100 miles south of Denver, where the state capital is. And so I'm fortunate enough that my husband works from home while I'm in session for 120 days. And I stay in Denver during the week and travel home on the weekends. And, of course, Saturdays we have town halls and, meetings and all of that. And so without my family support and the great friends that we have that help us along the way, there's just no way that I could do this job. And, my husband being so politically involved has been very supportive, has been very helpful, and we seek each other's advice on, what do we do from here, or how is this going to affect our district? And for having him be so engaged makes it easier for me in having that support and his, and his influence on what he sees happening. And I definitely use my friends that have just gone over and beyond to help our family be able to do this. And while I'm gone, my friends step in and will take over and just make sure our kids get where they need to be when they need to be there. And we're just very blessed. And to be in this role as a woman, you need to have that support. It's just so important. And, your spouse, of course, is your first hand and your right hand person who helps you through and picks you up when you're feeling a little down or you're just not sure where your heart needs to be or where your vote needs to be. And, he's just really there to talk me through it and help me see both sides of things. And that has just been a great aspiration for me to have him there. And, my kids are just very proud of me. I have a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they're just very proud of what I'm doing. And I'm proud of myself for being able to be a good role model, not only for them, but for their friends and for my community.
Thank you.
So, absolutely.
Dr. Bonilla-Rodriguez, I'm wondering if you have, in your research, found out any trends about, the type of support that Latinas need in order to run, if there's anything about culture or family, something that might speak to this question of work-life balance.
Absolutely. This is all very exciting for me. So first I want to start off by saying, and I have been quoted as saying this in the media, that I don't believe in balance. I believe in prioritizing, and that's not to say anything negative about anyone who does believe in balance, but I learned while I was on my doctoral journey, pregnant with twins and working full-time, that I could never do every job 100%, and that I would have to today be a mom if my kids are sick, tomorrow be the employee for my full-time job if there's a deadline, and maybe in the evening I take mentoring calls, and there are different roles at different times that are my priority, and that allows me to deal with some of that juggle and some of that guilt that I feel if I miss one of the kids' events. My husband is there, so I love that Representative Navarro talked about having a supportive husband, and it is important to have a supportive network, whether that means friends, relatives, and or your partner or spouse. And so I travel extensively, which means that I do sometimes miss things, but I once heard a Latina leader talk about a conversation with her college-age son, in which she apologized because she had missed events. And it stayed with me because she said that her response to him was that her work ethic and how hard she worked taught him how he should be and how he should approach life, and that whatever games or events or other things in his life she had missed, he didn't fault her for, because it taught him about work ethic and about all that that he should be. And so I've taken that to take my kids with me wherever I go, to expose them to people, to opportunities, to being able to understand the workforce and what it means to be a Latino in the workforce, but also, as Representative Navarro alluded to several times, a woman, a Latina in the workforce and in the political arena, a place where we really have to struggle and fight to get to that place, and not just hold it, not just get there, but hold it, right? Hold those roles in political office. And so in my research, I asked the Latina leaders about what influenced them positively as well as what was an obstacle. And interestingly enough, family came up in both of the categories. And when you reflect on your own experience, there are some social and societal and cultural expectations to what a woman, and especially in our Latino culture, should represent, should be involved with, shouldn't be involved with. And so you sort of have to take it in stride and understand that sometimes you have to take a risk. And I think what Representative Fernandez talked about in terms of bringing your family along with you, at some point, if they realize how important it is to you and you sort of take the risk and jump on it, they're going to come along because they're going to see the importance of it to you, but also to the community and to society at large. And so I wanted to share 6 crucial positive influencers that were identified in my research. The first was successful educational attainment, and that's not to say that everybody has to earn a doctorate, but that as we earn certain levels of higher education, that as we educate ourselves in terms of the political process and voting and really understanding what these women are doing and the path that they're forging, that we're able to accomplish more. That possessing self-confidence, and I think the women on the line have definitely done that, jumping into these scary sometimes roles, and that having role models, and now we talk about not just role models, but mentors and furthermore sponsors, people that are willing to go out there and go on a limb for you. And also the family influence was positive. We know that we sort of have to take that in stride. And the last one was religious influence. And so I always talk about a level of spirituality. We don't have to have the same religious beliefs, but really finding a way to ground yourself, whether it's meditation or prayer, whatever it is that you believe in, so that you can find the strength to do all of these other things. So these are the 6 crucial positive influencers that were identified in my research.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us again the title of the 6, what you're calling that?
Sure. Those are the 6 crucial positive influencers.
6 positive, crucial influencers. And
Yes.
they were, again, family, spiritual practice.
Self-confidence, having role models, and successful educational attainment.
Successful educational attainment.
Yes. Successful educational attainment, participating in leadership training, possessing self-confidence, having role models, religious influence, and family influence.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really like what you had to say about the priorities over work-life balance, because I think what can happen when we talk about work-life balance is that when you become imbalanced, there's a thought, well, should I continue? Like, if I can't keep this together, how am I going to keep moving forward? And if you acknowledge, like, early on that it's going to be imbalanced and that you're going to have to shift priorities all the time, for me, it inspires us to keep moving forward despite the imbalance.
Exactly.
Thank you. Representative Velasquez?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
What we're talking about now is about work-life balance, and if you would share with us just your experience, what that has been like, both before you were a representative and now while you're in elected office.
Well, as far as before I was a representative, it was difficult. Again, like I mentioned before, I have 5 children, age ranging from 13 to 23. I have a college student. I have a son that's in prison, which put me in the direction of politics. And then I also have a transgender child, and then I have 2 younger minor children. And they're ultimately what keeps me going every single day. Their desire to, be who they are. They push me to make this place a better place. We all say we want to change the world, a little bit at a time. I'm willing to change Arizona as much as I can, make some positive policy changes. So the campaign trail, my kids were there for me. My youngest, my 13-year-old, would knock doors with me. He had one no in the entire campaign, one no. So I believe some of the other representatives mentioned that it is so important to have that family support on your campaign in while you're in office. And so as far as being in office, my kids are there too. And actually our caucus recommends, hey, bring your kids here. Let them see the process. Let them know the process. So, it's juggling. It's a juggle, definitely. But, with having adult children, they help out as much as they can. My mother is amazing. She's helped me out tremendously. My friends, so you need to know who's there for you at the end of the day. So, again, just the support system, the people that believe in you. I mean, right now, I'll do a little plug, is I'm at the Women in Government conference in Denver, Colorado. And I couldn't be here without my family, my best friend, watching my son who got sick the day before I left. So things like that, the support system is huge.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, too, about your family and about your child is transgender, because I feel like that LGBTQ visibility is huge for Latinos, and wonderful that you felt comfortable sharing that with us.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we must be at opposite ends of the room doing our call-in conference, because I'm here as well. Representative Navarro.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
That's great. That's great.
That is hilarious. I'd like to come back from the tour, so I'm literally going upstairs. That's hilarious.
It's a small world.
It is.
It really is. And I'm gonna chime in here because Ceci is not only a colleague, but I count her as a friend. Everyone asks us if we've known each other, how long we've known each other. Well, we met when we started running, and you make quick friends, but I just count her as a very close friend. She's taught me so much. She's much younger than I am, and I mean, she has taught me so much. And the next thing I would say is that your role models, they're not necessarily someone older than you or some trailblazers, although many times, and they should be, those trailblazers that have opened up so many roads for us, but they're people younger than us that are coming up the farm team, as I like to call them. She's part of the farm team, and she's one of my role models. You learn so much from them. So you get role models, and you get help, and you get mentorship from anyone. And Ceci brought up about our caucus, our Democratic caucus at the state legislature, the men that have mentored us, that have let us go. We're not held back at all. We're not told this is the way you have to vote. You're a freshman. This is what you should be doing. They are allowing us to flourish. I don't know if it's always like that. This is my first term, but I hope that the next generation, the next group that comes in, that'll be just like that, because I really feel like we've all grown so much just in 81 days. We had an 81-day session, and I've seen so much growth in so many of us.
Thank you, Charlene. She's a rock star too. Don't let her touch you. She is a rock star. She actually was on the phone with me before I left, and I felt so bad leaving my sick son, and she's like, remember, you're the mom and the dad. So she's a great woman, and I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for demonstrating exactly how we're supposed to be supporting each other.
Thank you.
So I think we'll move to a final question. We have about 20 minutes left. And the question would be, if there's anything that you wish that you would have known early on in your career, whether that be for a leadership opportunity or politics, what would it have been? And if you can connect to that, this question of what do you think is standing in the way of Latinas being able to run for political office or to seek higher leadership opportunities in their chosen fields? And we'll begin, let's begin with Dr. Bonilla Rodriguez.
Talk about on the spot. I was just jotting down some notes. I think definitely some of what we've talked about here. So taking some of these thoughts and feelings of guilt off your plate. I think early on, not having a mother, being raised by my grandparents, and having two younger sisters, I've always felt a sense of pressure to do everything, to do things correctly, or according to others' perspectives and views. And so I think learning early on not to feel guilty about something that you're not able to participate in. So you might not be able to attend a baby shower because you need to spend some time reading to prepare for a presentation, or you might have to leave your sick child that one time. I've done that as well. So Representative Velasquez, I know how hard that is, and you feel guilty, but this is why you have these important people in your life. And I believe it does take a village to raise a child. And sometimes I think in this society where there's so much conversation around me and individualism, we tend to forget that. And so that bringing your Latino culture and merging that with the American culture and saying, okay, I don't want to be totally individualistic. I want to be a good mother and I want to be able to play that role as well as possible, but I'm also doing this for my children, as she so very well articulated, and so I might need to leave them. So I think definitely pushing away from guilt, definitely finding some me time while still having that family component. I think understanding the importance of exposure. I always say that exposure equals access, whether it's to an event, an opportunity, reading something. It doesn't have to be, as I said before, that you're going to earn a new degree, but just really exposing yourself to information and to people, and surrounding yourself with a wonderful network like these women are to one another.
Thank you. Representative Fernandez?
She is right on. The doctor's right on. It's so important. Again, when she said it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village for all of us. I think the one thing that might be holding us back as Latinas to reach those goals, that I think we're sometimes can be our worst enemy. Because again, I'm going to go back to that we forget that the work that we do is very important, and it needs to be valued, not just by the outside, but by the inside. You need to value that work. So we have a tendency to hold back. We kind of think that we should wait for someone to come and ask us. I was really impressed with Representative Navarro saying that she was asked to run. Many times you're not asked to run.
Right.
People may think that you're a worthy candidate, but they don't go up to you and ask you. You have to step forward and say, again, that fear, you got to put that fear behind you, let the passion come through and say, I can run for this. I can do this. And then you surround yourself with people. I could never, ever, ever say I did this alone. Never, because there's people that came forward that said, we'll help you raise money. Let's all do this together. We'll help you knock on doors. Let's do this together. This is how I did it. Let's see what mistakes I made, and let's not do this, for you. Let's help you do better. So you have to open yourself up, make yourself really vulnerable, and that's really hard. Again, as Latina women, we have a tendency to take charge. We know what's right. We know what's right for our kids. We know what's right for our parents. Many of us are taking care of our parents. I have a 94-year-old mother. I have children. I have grandchildren. And we kind of have a tendency to always take control, but at some point in time, you got to let go and let people help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Velasquez?
Can you, I was a little bit loud where I was at. I didn't get to hear all of the question. Can you repeat that?
Sure. So what we're talking about are, what are the things that we wish we would have known before getting started in political office? And to tie with that, what are the barriers that you think may be holding Latinas back from seeking higher leadership opportunities?
Well, let's see here. As far as holding me back or holding us back, I think that just because our presence hasn't been so relevant in the last 10 years. I mean, it's been a slow progression as far as Latinos running for office. So I I think we felt for a reason it was just a man's world, or only, Anglos can run for this type of office. When, I started to get involved, I feel like, okay, well, I can do this. Nobody's, going to be like, we had 2 open seats. That was my opportunity. I had to take that. And if I did not take that opportunity, would I have that opportunity again? Probably not. I had a 50-50 chance to win one of the seats when I won. So I just feel like just not having the awareness and just be able to say, hey, I can do this, or the confidence. My confidence, I was in another dramatic story. I was in a domestic violence relationship, and my confidence was not there. And so being in this political arena, you meet these like-minded people, and you embrace one another and push each other to, the next great thing. And so that's a great thing about Charlene, is she's pushed me to, new levels. And, when I, we'll be sitting in committee or caucus, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. She's like, you're right, say something. It's my confidence. So I think a lot of times our culture, we just are not as confident, and we need to be. We should be standing up proud on the front line, as it should be. Especially, I'm not saying district to district. My district heavily Latino. They should have Latino representation. So I'm just saying that my personal barriers and friends that I know is confidence.
Right. Thank you. I think, we're getting to some of the very similar points, which is like confidence, owning the skills that you already have, getting out of your own way, to being able to have what you already have, all the tools to do. It's just a matter of, getting to the front, opening yourself up to be able to get the support that you need so that you can fully be the leader that you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
Thank you. Representative Navarro?
Thank you. I'm going to take a different approach. Something that I didn't know, but that I wish I would have been more aware of, is the fundraising aspect. I found that it was very difficult because no one knew who I was. They didn't know what they were investing in or to whom they were investing in. And making lots of phone calls and lots of introductions to those donors was one of the pieces that I didn't ever expect or that I even thought about. Right. I didn't have a problem, knocking doors. I didn't have a problem, making phone calls. The difficult part was, asking those funders and those constituents to believe in you enough to give you a $10 donation, to give you a $20 donation, and then to come back and say, hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm here again to ask you for another $10. Is there any way possibly you can do that? That for me was one of the biggest eye-openers for me, that you have to really self-confidence again, take pride in who you are, and sell yourself to not only your constituents, but to the donors who are going to be there to allow you to be able to have an active campaign and be out in front and being on the move and being where you need to be, and mailers and flyers and those things I just never even thought of. I was like, okay, I can run. Right. But then when it comes down to it, you have to, for me, I sold my Harley Davidson so I can start my campaign. And that's how I started my fundraising. I just sold my motorcycle, and there I was off. I was running. I had money, and I said, let's get things printed. Where do I need to go, and how do I do this? So that would be my one thing that I didn't know and didn't expect to be something that was difficult. And then also public speaking. I feel like I have really grown in my public speaking, and I'm always the shy one, kind of out in the back and just observing a lot. But when I have something to say, I am very confident in what I'm saying and why I'm saying it and the reasons why I'm saying it and what I believe in. And so, there's just a few little things outside of those two aspects that are really important. And I often laugh and, tell my, volunteers, if I knew I was going to be a politician, I probably would have taken debate in college or high school. So anyway, that is just my experience coming from a small town here in Colorado. We had a population of 3,000 people. You knew everybody when you went to the grocery store. And then I moved to Pueblo, and it just, for me, that was the city. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know a single person here. How am I going to get them to vote for me? But hard work, determination, walking doors, lots of phone calls, those are the things you have to keep in mind. It's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding in the end.
Yes.
So that's my take.
I think, fundraising is always named as one of the most significant barriers for Latinas running, and we're always trying to think of what can we do to be able to help on an individual level to build the confidence to ask for the money. How can we mobilize the Latino buying power, the money that we're spending in other places, whether that be technology and media, and mobilize that funding so that we can fund the campaigns of leaders from our own communities. Is there any tip that you would offer for those that are starting at their campaigns, fundraising tips? Maybe around how to build the confidence to ask for the money.
I'm going to tell you, it's not easy for anybody, and it's sort of like talking about public speaking. No matter how many times you do it, and I think you have to have that sense of nervousness to kind of get that adrenaline going. So it's never easy, and neither is fundraising, as a representative mentioned. I think for anyone, I haven't heard of one person saying, I just love call time. I really want to go in there and get that list of people I have to call and get some no's and maybe half of what I asked for, or maybe the full amount. Nobody likes it. But I think the biggest tip is that you just have to, get your list together, sit down, get a phone. And I found that doing it with a buddy system, whether it be another representative that's trying to raise money or just a good friend to sit there with you. And it's almost like hand-holding. Again, it takes a village for that person to sit there and maybe document as you're making your phone calls. I think that makes it a little bit easier. But I really, really have yet to run into one person that said, you know what, that's one thing I love is fundraising. But it would be nice if there was groups that raised money and said, knocked on our door and said, guess what, I've got this pot of money for you that people want you to have. It would be nice if we put organizations together that would really promote Latinas in leadership positions. We're the growing minority, if you want to still call us a minority, and I think there's many, many, many more young Latinas that, again, the farm team, and we got to make sure that they're the leaders of tomorrow. Because I'm just going to tell you this, but I really, really, really believe the strength in legislatures, it belongs to women. We're the tough ones. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say. I don't want to even stereotype, but I find that with women is that they're not going to, sugarcoat anything. They'll tell you, and like it or not, and they're there for you. They've got your back. They understand that you have families and commitments, and they understand all that, but they still expect the best out of you. So I'm really, really a proponent for getting more Latinas and more women in elected position. I think the world would be a better place.
Thank you.
Representative
Navarro, did you also want to respond to the question about fundraising? And before you respond, I also just want to remind those that are listening on the phone that there are also wonderful resources both on the Vote Run Lead website and the Latinas Represent website, toolkits that will help you when thinking about creating fundraising plans for your campaign. The Vote Run Lead would be voterunlead.org/go-run/team/fundraising. So go ahead and Google those things when you're off the phone, and there are wonderful resources that are available for you as well. Representative Navarro, did you want to comment on fundraising tips?
The first thing I would say is once you establish your campaign and you've made your announcement, prior to your announcement, have your donation envelopes ready and in hand and start handing them out as soon as possible. And I always call it my Christmas list. Get that Christmas list out and start making phone calls to your friends and family that are dearest to you and say, this is what I'm doing. I really need your support. And if you could do me a favor and tell 3 of your friends, that would be great. And But like I said, I had no idea. I announced and they said, oh, where do we donate? That's a great question. So definitely establish your website, have your envelopes ready, and just be ready to ask for money. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do is ask somebody for money, but that's the only way that you can bring your name recognition and be part of the game and throw your name in the game and be, unfortunately it takes money to win races, and you just got to be ready and prepared and just jump. As soon as you're ready, just jump and don't look back and heel forward dug in and just run. So
That's exactly right.
Just run. That's you sell your Harley, just run.
Just run.
Yes, you no longer have wheels, so now you just need to walk every door.
Thank you. Do either of the other two panelists want to weigh in on the fundraising here in the last 5 minutes of the webinar?
I actually do. I want to kind of talk about a little bit what Representative Hernandez was talking about. Since we're both from Arizona, we do try to do this outreach to Latinas here. I do want to say what's worked for me is I've, been in, working campaigns and, for the last 4 or 5 years, is I've made those connections, with other legislators, other, city council, and you need to talk to them once you, file to run or you announce to run and say, hey, can you help me out? Do you think you can sponsor a fundraiser for me? I mean, what's the worst thing they can say is no. But I feel that, actually that was probably one of the first places me and Representative Fernandez met is leadership, or not leadership, but the incumbent, other women set up a fundraiser for us. It was 5 of us there. It was a joint fundraiser, and we did really well, and it was a great turnout. So I say turn to your future colleagues and whoever you're working with, if you have a slate, if you have a running mate, and join together, join together forces. And also, again, to be prepared, have your envelopes, have your square, because a lot of times people will say, oh, well, I don't have any cash, I only have my debit card. Get a square. It helps. People can't say no to that. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll use my debit card. So
that's just to pause so that if everyone knows what a square is.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
A square is just basically a credit card reader that you can attach to your iPhone or iPad or whatever type of, system you usually. I just use it right from my iPhone, so it's very helpful. It's very minimal charge. It may be a couple of cents per swipe or whatever. I can't really remember, but again, people can't really say no. I mean, if you're asking for small amounts, large amounts, have your newsletter, an email blast, and you will be amazed at how much money. I mean, even if it's my district's number is 29, get innovative, get creative. My district's 29. I asked for $29. A lot of people are like, oh, that's cool, yeah, and I end up getting like a $50 check. So just be creative, be innovative, ask for help. Definitely ask for help. I mean, and just one more note, as usually we have these women for so-and-so fundraisers. I actually had men for Tessie Velasquez for state representative. I had a group of men support me. So just get creative.
Yep.
That's a great idea. Dr. Bonilla Rodriguez, do you have any last parting tips for us?
I think that those were all great suggestions. They touched on everything, but I'd like to share what one of my mentors, Joyce Roche, says to us nonprofit managers, which I think definitely applies to campaign fundraising, and that's to always have your tin cup out.
That's true. Definitely.
The tin cup was what we had before square. So
yes, exactly.
That's a good idea.
Thank you, everyone. A wonderful and really enriching conversation. And I look forward to being able to connect with you all again at another point.
Anytime. This was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
you. Have a great summer.
Okay. Bye, Ceci.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.